Full of frustration. Full of despair. Two British football fans have had enough. The MLS UK Show.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the MLS UK Show. I'm Henry Hewitt, and as always I'm joined by
Elliot Holman.
Now, this is the first podcast in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I have to take blame for that. I do apologise. I've been on holiday and simple as that. Elliot has been holding the fort, watching MLS. Because of a time difference and Spain being an hour ahead of the UK, that then pushes the matches even further into the middle of the night. So I've been watching MLS 360 while Elliot has been watching them live. So, Elliot,
yes,
which game would you like to talk about first from this past weekend?
Well, we'll start at the start, shall we? Charlotte and Nashville. I'm really enjoying. We should shout out Apple TV and MLS for their partnership, because we've said for the first couple of years it's great being able to watch the games over here, but we were kind of moaning because they were always on all at the same time. Whereas at the minute, we're getting some early games on a Saturday before the big chunk at 12:30 for us over here in the UK, and then some early games Sunday as well, and obviously the Sunday night soccer as well, which has been fantastic. So big up to MLS and to Apple for rectifying what was a bit of an issue for me personally the last couple of years. Watched Charlotte and Nashville lost 2-1. Does not tell the story of the game whatsoever, much like Bolton and Rotherham, Henry. This was Nashville dominated and looked really good, as the away side looked really good. But unfortunately, it's only one stat that matters. Charlotte won 2-1 in the end. There was a lot of added time. And I really enjoyed that. Game. And do you know what? I've got a real soft spot for Sam Surridge. Gets stuck in, tries to run in behind, makes great runs, gets his shots off, causes a problem in the air. He's pretty robust as well. Bit of an old style striker. Really good to watch. So that was really nice. And it was followed by LA Galaxy, who I just feel like we got to talk about it. They lost 2-0 to Real Salt Lake. And one of the things they've been hanging their hat on this year, because they're without a win, has been the return of Pansil. He returned, first couple of minutes, caused problems, and you thought, oh yeah, here we go. But alas, Real Salt Lake 2-0 winners, and LA Galaxy are still struggling to get points on the board.
Well, first of all, I need to say, for anyone who has been frantically checking for the last 90 seconds what went on in the Bolton v Rotherham game in League One, just for context, Bolton lost 1-0, but had 36 shots, and Rotherham had about 1. So there you go. And yeah, just like you said there, in the Charlotte-Nashville game, there's only one stat that matters, and that is that Charlotte ended up winning the game. LA Galaxy, though, stats that have mattered for them is 0 wins. And you're right, we've been hanging our hats on players returning. Pansil's return didn't change anything. The goals, I mean, credit to Luna for the goals. Great anticipation in the area, to make it 1-0 and then 2-0. But LA Galaxy, I mean, this is, I think it's the joint worst record for a championship winning side in the next season, that they haven't won in 8 games. I mean, we felt they might struggle. We felt they might be slow at the start of the year. We didn't expect it to be this bad, did we?
No, and we always say we love MLS because someone can win MLS Cup one year and really struggle the next. But this is really taking it to the extreme. So a much worse points per game ratio than Kansas. We're going to get on to Kansas City, who have sacked manager Peter Vermees, because they literally don't have a point on the board. And they literally have lost every single match. And at some point, you have to think, well, surely Ricky Puig isn't the be-all and end-all of LA Galaxy. He's kind of what's missing now. They're a better side. I've seen them perform fairly well at points this season. They're not a bottom of the table side with no points, no wins whatsoever. So I'm a little concerned as to how long this is going to go on, and when do we start asking questions of Greg Vanney?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if we're going off the Peter Vermees sort of how many lives he had, then I think we've got Greg Vanney in LA Galaxy for a long time yet. But yeah, it's maybe they'll look at SKC, and SKC won at the weekend. They got the first win. So if SKC can win a few more games in the next few weeks, maybe LA Galaxy, it might push them to move. But I mean, Greg Vanney won the first MLS Cup in a while for LA Galaxy, so I think he's got a bit of credit in the bank at the moment. But as you said there, the start they've had has been so bad.
It's not been as bad as I just said they hadn't. I said they'd lost every single game. They haven't, so I apologise for that. But it feels like they've lost every single game.
Yeah, they've lost every single game at home.
Yeah. So,
I mean, and, you know, it was a bit of a fortress for him last year. So, yeah, not good enough for LA Galaxy. I tell you what, RSL, let's talk a little bit about them then, because they got the win. They're 10th in the table, despite beating Seattle and LA Galaxy, two scalps within Major League Soccer. They're showing signs, they've had a slowish start, but they're showing a few signs, aren't they, that they could really make something of themselves this season.
Yeah, and you know we mustn't put too much on the early stages of the league. Of course, Portland, we were not expecting to do well after their start to the season, but you know they sit 5th in the West, and RSL in 10th. You know, I've seen St. Louis play this season. I've watched a lot of Houston this season. I think Houston are probably, you know, deserve to be where they are. They show flashes, they show glimpses of hope. But it was the first time I've watched RSL this season. Obviously, there's so many teams to be across. It was the first RSL game that I'd watched, and I saw enough to think that they've got a chance to finish above the likes of Dallas and potentially Colorado as well.
Yeah, 2 defeats before that for RSL, and they've got the win. Another side that had lost a few games and came back emphatically at the weekend was San Jose Earthquakes, beating DC United 6-1 in the 30th anniversary of the inaugural MLS match. Jose Martinez was just a young boy when that happened, dreaming of scoring a hat-trick in Major League Soccer, and he did at the weekend as part of the win. Joseph's back, isn't he? He's looking the sharpest I've seen him in quite a few years now.
Yeah, and it's weird. San Jose is not a team that I ever imagined him playing for. I'm enjoying. I like it when that happens, when a player goes to a side that you don't necessarily pair them up with in your mind. Arango, fantastic start getting San Jose on the board. Martinez then kicked into life. Espinoza from the spot made it 3-0 on 20 minutes. I mean, they were absolutely flying. Benteke always going to cause you problems, and he did. To be fair, you know, early shot on target, got his goal just before half time, but 6-1 is dreadful. And I know it's an eastern side going over to the west, but I mean, DC United, they look like they might be in a little bit of trouble. 12th in the table behind New York City, who, again, I watched at the weekend and did not impress me. There's some very poor teams out there at the minute in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I mean, DC conceded, obviously you concede 6, you're going to, at this stage of a season, be the team that's conceded the most, and it's by quite a few goals now. But I mean, the thing is, DC have just started off where they left last season. They're relying on Benteke, and he got his goal, but he can't defend for him, can he? So he can only do so much. And New York City FC, 11th at the moment. I don't know where we are with NYCFC at the moment. I think we probably are around this sort of area of being about 11th, hoping to sneak into the playoffs, maybe in that sort of playoff eliminator kind of stage. It hasn't, New York City FC haven't surprised me, and they just seem to have, I don't know, last few years, it's this gradual decline, isn't it? It's quite sad to see, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it was the first time I watched them this season. It has to be said, in 2025, we're still watching New York City play at Yankee Stadium. It doesn't get any prettier. That it's still. I found it really jarring still to watch. I'm not just hating on it for the sake of it. I think it's still a real talking point that's still happening in 2025. It just looks dreadful, and they look like they struggle to play on it as much. It's not even a home advantage. They were 1-0 down inside the first couple of minutes. Really, really fast start from Minnesota, and it's hard to judge because Minnesota are a fantastic side. I've enjoyed watching them this season. Really fast start, and they looked accomplished. They looked in control for the whole game. New York City got a consolation goal in the 90th minute, but Minnesota looked fantastic. New York City just didn't create. Got themselves a penalty on the stroke of half-time, which they smashed against the bar. And that was a huge chance. That was really important because they had created nothing. So you have to take those chances. They could have got away with a point there, but Minnesota looked fantastic.
Yeah, they do. I think for me, NYCFC, they're kind of stuck in this limbo where they're waiting for the new stadium and to go to that next level. And they kind of it's just this middle period where they're just waiting for that. But Minnesota, obviously, they have a new stadium. They've been there a few years now. And I think under Eric Ramsey, they've got a coach who showed last year that Minnesota showed glimpses. And I think we said in our season preview this year that they could easily become, the dark horses for that conference. They looked sharp. They've got some good players. And yeah, they've started very well. They're third in the Western Conference, 14 points from 7 games. They're winning games at home and away as well. And, we mentioned Charlotte before in the start that they've got 4 wins from 4 at home and then not one in the 3 away games. So I think when you've got records like that, it's great to have a good home record or great to have a good away record, but it kind of, if one stops and if it's say you're winning at home and that stops, you're then struggling. So Minnesota's sharing the wins about home and away. So yeah, I've been really impressed with Minnesota as well, and I think could be a really good season for them.
Yeah, and they're not just winning games; they're entertaining to watch. You don't get any bonus points for that, but I've really enjoyed this weekend. There was some fantastic games. Nashville extremely unlucky to lose theirs in that opener. Again, a great watch, and I'm looking forward to this week because one of the early kickoffs is my boys Orlando.
Well, we'll see if they can score this week because despite being 2 of the highest scorers, Philadelphia and Orlando, give us a 0-0 last weekend. Even Ty Baribo didn't score, so
it's actually a great result. To be fair, for teams that have been conceding so many goals, I think it was I think both sides are probably pretty happy with it, to be honest.
Probably, but as a neutral, I wasn't. I want goals. Let's round off then our detailed look into last weekend with Miami. It was 1-1 at home to Toronto at Chase Stadium. And you know what, with Toronto, this was a real impressive performance, easily the best performance of the season. Now, you got to remember with Toronto, they are, they're 13th? Are they in the, 14th in the East, 3 points, going to Miami, who started Suarez and Messi. This was a home banker for a win, and Toronto came and showed some steel. Bernadeschi put them 1-0 up. Obviously, Messi equalised, but yeah, to hang on at the end and get the draw, I was really impressed.
Yeah, and you've got to hope that they kick on from that point because they're down the bottom with their Canadian rivals, Montreal, and 3 points on the board for a team like Toronto. It doesn't matter. The expectations are always high with Toronto. They've had huge success in MLS over the years, but 14th behind New England, who have been terrible. DC United, who just got beaten 6-1 by San Jose. New York City, who couldn't get control of the ball at home. You need to see Toronto pushing on from this result. And interestingly, on the MLS website, if you look at the results from this weekend, it's got every single game apart from their beloved Miami. It's actually missing from the website.
Wow.
So the last game played was San Jose DC United. So hard to believe that they've forgotten about Messi. Or that in this instance, he doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I've got the website up here, and Messi does feature on 2 of the adverts that are on the side of the page. So they haven't forgot about him too much. Right, well, we'll just do a quick roundup of what else happened then. We wanted to go into detail of those matches. I mean, those matches were the games that stood alone on Apple TV, so we had a more detailed watch of them. Elsewhere, San Diego continued to impress with a 3-0 victory over Seattle. I mean, slow start for Seattle, 6 points from 7. Exactly the opposite of San Jose. They have been fast, they've been out of the blocks, and they're playing very well. They've only lost 1 game so far. Another team who've started fast, Vancouver, they won 2-0. They're top of the West. SKC, we're going to talk about in a moment when we talk about Peter Vermees, but they beat St. Louis 2-0. Houston beat LAFC 1-0. LAFC have lost 4 out of the last 5 now. Austin 0, Portland 0. New York Red Bulls 2, Chicago 1. Columbus keep their unbeaten record. They're the only 2 unbeaten teams so far with Inter Miami. They beat Montreal 2-1. Wilfred Nancy against his former club. Cincy beat NE Revs 1-0, and Atlanta drew 1-1 to Dallas, where Miggy got his first goal back. I would say in the red and black in the 5 stripes, but Atlanta, for some reason, yet again wore their away kit at home, which actually annoys me when they do that.
It's absolute madness.
So he scored his first goal back in the blue of Atlanta, whatever the colour is. Right, well, there's your roundup. Let's have a look into some of the big news stories in MLS from the last 7 days or so.
Elliot Holman, Henry Hewitt, MLS UK Show.
Welcome back to the MLS UK Show. So we're going to have a look at some of the bigger news stories from Major League Soccer. And the first one has to be Peter Vermees, who has been at SKC for about 60, 80, 100 years, has finally left his post. On this podcast, I'll be straight with you. We have been pushing for this for over 12 months now. SKC have massively underachieved, and it needed a change. They finally got the change, and the change meant they then won against St. Louis. They beat their rivals 2-0. Elliot, it was about time, wasn't it? It's a shame. I suppose it's like your old, I don't know, your old dog or your old cat who you eventually have to put down to put them out of the misery. But you don't want to, but you've got to do it eventually.
R.I.P. Becky, Henry's dog.
Oh.
2020, they were Western Conference champions. Let's not forget. Huge achievement from Peter Vermees. They did it in 2018 as well. Since then, 3rd in 2021, you think, okay. And then 12th, 8th and 13th. 12th, 8th and 13th, with their top scorer being Johnny Russell with 8 goals. Willie Agada, 10 goals. They just have not been at the races, and he hasn't been able to turn that around since 2021. This has been a real downturn for SKC, and they just haven't been able to get a foothold in anything. Pulido obviously was a bright spark, 14 goals in 2023, but even attendances have been dropping. They were averaging over 21,000 watching them when they were top of the West. Down to 18.5 in 2023. So everything about this just needed a reset, and it's not like it's a snap decision. He's been there for years. There's obviously respect there. I respect that they gave him time, way more than he deserved, maybe. There can be respect, but ultimately when you're not winning games, it doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter what you've achieved. There becomes a time where it's time for a change. And this is certainly long overdue for SKC. Yeah,
I mean, last year, getting to the US Open Cup final, it was a bit of brightness in a very dull season for them. I mean, you look at some of the results this season, and apart from that last 30 minutes of the game against Minnesota, where they somehow managed to come back from 3-0 down to equalise, other than that, it's been just poor. I mean, I don't think they've had necessarily ironically, actually, the first hour of that Minnesota game was the worst performance. But other than that, they've just been losing by the odd goal here and there. But there's only so many times you can do that, and it did need a change. It just went on for too long. And when you look at Seattle, for example, with Schmetzer, he's been there a long time, but they consistently are in the playoffs. They're consistently doing all right. Like last year, really an average kind of season for Seattle in the league. They didn't really get to, in the regular season, the high points of what we've expected from them in previous years, but they still got to the conference final. That's why Schmetzer is still in a job. He can still get something out of those players. It just ended for Peter Vermees. So, it is a shame. It's obviously MLS heritage. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up now, whether he sticks around MLS or whether he has a break. But, I think it's the right decision for SKC. And they had the bounce. They got the bounce against St. Louis at the weekend. So now you look at the games coming up. They've got Portland at home, San Jose away. I know San Jose have just won 6-1. I know Portland are 5th. But, if SKC, they're 2 winnable games for them. So if they win them both, suddenly they're back into the playoffs after 3 games after Peter Vermees leaves. So it can just change like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We know it's early days in MLS. I think they were right to pull the trigger early, and we'll see where they can end up at the end of the season. It's going to be really intriguing.
It is. Right, next news story. We've been covering this in this new segment of the MLS UK show so far this season. It's the Champions Cup. We have got to the quarter-final stage. Now, as we record this on Wednesday evening, unfortunately last night we lost LA Galaxy. We lost 3-2 at Tigres after drawing the first leg 0-0. Club Aful have gone through. They beat Club America. So we've now got tonight. So we're not going to cover these too much because by the time this episode gets released, they would have actually happened. But we've got Vancouver, who are taking a 1-1 draw to Pumas. Good luck to Vancouver. They've had a hell of a season, and if they can manage to go through in this, it'll just be incredible. So real good luck to them. And the All-MLS class, Inter Miami versus LAFC. LAFC won the first leg 1-0. As I said, Elliot, by the time that people watch this, they'd know the results in this. But would you like to have a little prediction? Can Vancouver go through, and who will go through out of Inter Miami and LAFC?
I fancy Vancouver. We're sending our best team at the minute to go and do the job, and they did really well in the first leg. And my phone or the app has decided that I'm a Vancouver fan. It's got it saved that I'm a Vancouver fan, so it woke me up in the night when they scored last week, and I wasn't even mad because I was like, oh, nice, like. Good result that. I think we're sending our best team to go and try and do the job there. LAFC take the advantage into the Miami game. You just can't count out Lionel Messi though, and I know it's so cliche, but Messi plays, LAFC will be on the back foot at least 1 point of the game when Miami are really, really pushing.
Yeah, as I said before, LAFC have had a poor few weeks in MLS, but they have, obviously, they got a win against Miami in the first leg. So LAFC took their eye off the ball in MLS, but keeping it firmly focused in the Champions Cup. I agree with you. I think Miami will probably go through just because of the Messi factor. Suarez, I'm surprised he played against Toronto, to be honest. I thought they would have rested him, but... I'm sure Messi can still do it and get them over the line. I'd love to see Vancouver do it. I don't think they will, but we need them to because MLS is suddenly getting outnumbered in the Champions Cup semi-finals. So, we need Vancouver to go through as well. Right, moving on to the next story. Kevin De Bruyne has officially announced that he's to leave Manchester City at the end of the season here in England. Rumours have been there for a while now that he's going to go to MLS. It was San Diego, and it now seems that Inter Miami conveniently have his his rights. So
those roster rules just keep on bending, don't they?
They do. So it could be that Inter Miami pick up Kevin De Bruyne in a very star-studded team they've already got. What do you make of this?
Amazing to get De Bruyne in MLS. I think, forget the fact it's Miami. I think in general, as a league, we need to do better with making sure that we're spreading out where players are going. It's a star-studded affair when Inter Miami are in town, and everyone wants to watch Messi and Busquets and Alaba and Suarez, but we're seeing teams really struggling for attendances as well. So we need to combat that somehow. I understand if they want to put their hand in their pocket, Miami can buy whoever they want within reason. How many designated players can they have? It would almost be a shame. It would be cool in a way, but it would also be a shame. I think it would be really cool to see Kevin De Bruyne somewhere like San Diego.
Yeah, I think for Kevin De Bruyne, having been brought up in Belgium, he played in Germany. Obviously, he's been here in Manchester for 10 years, whatever it is. I don't think his fair skin would suit Miami. I think he's more of a Chicago or a Seattle kind of guy. I agree with you. I'd like to see it shared about a little bit. I actually would thought if De Bruyne was going to sign for San Diego, who I appreciate their weather might not suit him, I thought that'd be good because it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of sharing it about a little bit. It means they can make an impact as well. But yeah, it possibly is that he's going to go to Inter Miami. But what I will say about, and we mentioned this on the previous episode, this is a hell of a move for MLS to get De Bruyne, because De Bruyne, he played in the Manchester Derby at the weekend. He can still put in performances. You look at, say, a Casemiro, who you probably could argue isn't good enough now for the Premier League. He would maybe go to MLS. He's a bit older than him. And he's in the final part of his career. Whereas Kevin De Bruyne, I think, can still offer something in Europe. So if he goes to MLS, it'd be a big sign. He's not maybe as big a name as Messi, but it'll still be as big a signing.
It's huge signing. The man's still, extremely, extremely talented. There is a trodden path from Manchester to MLS to a particular team, Henry, and in that particular team there is a Belgian striker. Could we see Kevin De Bruyne off to DC United?
Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. He would definitely make them better.
He would be able to put it on Benteke's head. That's all they need. Get the ball in the box to Benteke.
Yeah, so they'd lose games 6-5 instead of 6-1. We'll have to see. I'm sure it's something over summer that we'll finally get a resolution on. I just hope he doesn't go to Saudi. Come on, Kevin, come to us. Come to us in MLS. We'll have you. Right, the final news story is quite an interesting one, actually, and it's MLS have started selling international TV rights separate from Apple TV. So this is really around the Sunday Night Soccer. Obviously, a few years ago now, we saw that MLS brought all of their own rights in-house, all to Apple TV. I know in the US, there's a few games that are on Fox as well, but the vast majority on Apple. Here in the UK, they went from Sky Sports all to Apple. So, I've got people who I'm friends with who were like, well, you do a podcast on MLS, we can't watch it anymore. I'm like, yeah, you've got to subscribe to Apple TV. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. So do you think this is quite refreshing? Do we need to do this? Will this help sales of MLS Season Pass?
Well, they'll know, won't they? They've got 2 seasons of data now. I think the casual football fan is not watching MLS currently. I think that's fair to say, certainly in the UK. So, to get it back on something like Sky Sports there's no doubt, would increase the reach. If you're seeing a lot of Miami shirts out in the UK right now. Remember we started this podcast, you wouldn't see an MLS shirt ever. We'd message each other if we were out. Someone walked past my living room and they had a Red Bulls coat on and I was messaging you like, there's a Red Bulls fan like on my estate. Now it's everywhere, and that is the growth that the league has seen. But these people are not watching MLS. They're not subscribing to Apple TV. The casual football fan isn't watching the league currently, so good move to get it onto something else if they can. But I'm, as a diehard MLS fan, I'm extremely happy with the product with Apple TV. It's easy to use. It's all in one place. These games start on time a lot more as well. So yeah, I think if you listen to this podcast, this isn't for you, is it? You're a big MLS fan, and you're probably subscribing to Apple TV, I imagine.
Yes, although there are a few people who just watch the podcast for me and you. My dad and your dad are two of them who don't subscribe. Although my dad doesn't. Does your dad have an Apple TV?
I think he does. I think my dad's got MLS. Yeah, especially I think now the games are on earlier as well. It's probably got them a few dollars more because people are able to watch it at 7:30 on a Saturday night.
There you go. Well, it's my dad. My dad's the only person who doesn't have an Apple TV subscription to watch MLS, but watches this podcast just for me and you. Right. Well, if you have watched this podcast and you have enjoyed watching it or listening to it for me and Elliot, then we'd like a favour off you, please. If you are listening on your podcast provider, then if you've enjoyed it, please leave us a rating. Elliot, there's one rule, and there's one rule only.
They don't deserve it at the minute. Give us 5 stars, please. Thanks.
If you watch it on YouTube, please subscribe to the MLS UK Show. Every time we release an episode, you will be notified of it. Click the notification bell as well. And like this video. Leave a comment. I don't know what you could... Well, comment on what we've talked about, or tell us if you subscribe to Apple TV. All comments are welcome, and they help the algorithms. Other than that... I guess there's nothing else to say. My voice is going again. It has almost returned. I've got a cough, but it is getting there after 3 weeks. And the Spanish sun didn't even help it. But Elliot, so that's it for this week. We'll be back next time. I've been Henry Hewitt.
And my turn to go on holiday now. I've been Elliot Holman. See you later.
See ya.